gonna
Hi.
change our mind.
That's okay. But at least...
You need to go home.
Why?
And leave nice women alone.
I met this abortion supporter at the so-called Women's March. The nice women she's referring to are those gathered to celebrate abortion. Now call us crazy, but we don't think starving and disemboweling children qualifies as nice, so we can't stay home quietly when these marchers gather. Now, to her credit, this marcher chose to chat for a while, but that conversation which you are about to see reveals shockingly different approaches to science. Let's dissect the dialogue together. I think you'll be surprised by what qualifies as science at the so-called Women's March.
What is it?
A fetus.
What kind of embryo is this? What kind?
Hard to say. Could anything? I can't even tell if it's a mammalian.
Mammalian?
Yeah, I can't even tell if it could be a fish. At that age, it's impossible to know.
See, that's maybe just looking at a picture, but if you know this picture was taken of a embryo in a human woman, which it was, a human woman would be carrying something that belongs to the same species as her, right?
Literally don't care.
See, the thing is, science, you don't care about science. Why do you hate science so much?
Oh, don't be a stupid idiot.
No, I'm serious. Like, we talk about science, everyone just backs off so quickly. Why is that?
No. You're barking up the wrong tree. I do care about science.
Okay, I'm sorry. Tell me why.
I do know that fetuses are not human. They do not have heartbeats. They do not have neural impulses. They do not have personality.
Where'd you get information from? Where'd you hear that?
Science.
Okay, science, you can say that, but this is a heartbeat here. Brainwaves here at 6 weeks are detected by electroencephalogram.
That's not a 6-week fetus.
It is a 6-week embryo. Not a fetus yet, embryo.
That is not a 6-week embryo.
What does a 6-week embryo look like then?
A very, very small, barely differentiated clump of cells.
Okay, that's not true. Where did you hear that?
Honey.
Someone's giving you false science.
Honey, no, they're not.
When she said literally don't care, she tipped her hand. Abortion supporters confess love for science, but scratch beneath the surface, and what you'll find often isn't science, but instead a narrow-minded worldview. She said fetuses aren't human and that they don't have heartbeats. Scientifically false claims. A fetus with human parents can't be canine or feline, she's human, and her heart starts beating at 16 days. But then she made a switch from false scientific claims to something else. She says fetuses don't have personhood. But personhood isn't a matter of science. Scientific study can lead us to conclude that white men and black men are both humans, but to determine whether they are equal in personhood, we have to talk worldview, philosophy, religion. Her worldview, tragically, leaves out humans too young to be born. But for now, let's stick to questions of science. Let me ask you this question. You say a fetus is not a human.
No.
Okay, but all things are some kind of thing. So what kind of thing is a fetus then?
A human fetus.
Okay, so we agree. Like a human toddler, human adult, these are phases of development in a human's life. So if it's a human, it could be part of the mom, it could be part of the mother,
Sure.
part of bigger human,
Yes.
but we agree that this thing is human. We agree this is the human species, right?
Well, is my thumb human because it's a human
It's
thumb?
part of a human.
Is my menstrual blood human because it's
Part of a human.
menstrual blood?
Part of a human.
If my thumb is a problem and the doctor wants to cut it off, if I shed my menstrual blood monthly, is there an ethical problem for you with that?
No, because when an egg dies in your body and you're shedding the endometrial lining, that's part of your body that's being passed out.
My thumb is cancerous.
And cut it off. Yeah, you
Then
can.
why can I not, in your epistemology,
Yeah.
cut off that fetus if it is a problem?
Because it's not about epistemology, it's about ontology. Epistemology, how I know something. Ontology is what is something, right? So your finger, I might not understand.
My finger is me. It is
It's
a body.
part of you.
It is human.
Ontologically, it exists as part of you, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And
this
this
is,
too.
yeah, no, here's the
A
difference.
fetus.
Can I explain the
Part of
difference? The fetus, the embryo, is inside you. But your finger is defined by being part of the bigger whole, the human. Your
So
brain,
is the fetus.
here's the
You are
difference.
applying, no, and here's the difference.
Okay, tell me the difference.
You're applying agency and personhood to something that is still part of my body.
How is, okay, here's the difference.
Therefore,
okay.
you are giving preference to a non-living thing over a living thing.
Okay.
And that is misogyny.
But is it misogyny? Let's explore. By this point, we agreed the fetus is human, a quick turnaround from her earlier claim. But then we came to a new roadblock. She saw the fetus as a human part, while I claimed the fetus is a whole human being. Categories matter, and these two are distinct, parts and wholes. Humans have a lot of parts. You probably have fingers and toes and eyes and a nose, probably some hair growing on top of your head too. These are all parts of you, but these parts are not whole beings on their own. A whole being is an organism, that is an individual with parts working together in a coordinated fashion to meet the needs of the individual. Your parts work together to keep you alive and well. They are human, but not whole humans. How odd would it be if your hairs were little humans bouncing on top of your skull? Her thumb then is indeed human, but a human part. Cutting off her thumb would not be an act of murder, it would be killing part of a human. So if an embryo is part of a woman, then yes, it could seem misogynistic to tell women they may not remove part of their body. But if the embryo is a whole human being, this is not misogyny. Telling moms not to kill their children isn't hatred, that's love. So which is the embryo, part or whole? That's what I try to explore next with an illustration that doesn't quite hit the mark.
Your brain keeps all of your body systems working together as a whole.
My brain is part of my body.
Yes, but you need your brain you're an organism means you have living parts working together in a coordinated fashion. Your finger is not your brain, but your body parts work together, right?
Yes.
That's not the same with the fetus and you. The mother's brain is not directing the fetus's development. The baby needs her mom, but the baby is directing her own development as an organism.
He thinks that's a separate person that I cannot get rid of, but my thumb, if it has cancer, is not a separate person.
Right, because it's part of you. But did you hear my explanation though?
Yeah,
Your brain keeps all of your body systems working together. Your brain is not helping this child grow. This child
My
needs...
brain doesn't not keep my body systems together.
Yes, if you have brain dead, you will die.
No,
If you don't have a
Sorry?
brain, that child doesn't develop.
What? I'm sorry.
If your brain's not working, that child
No,
doesn't
this baby
develop.
has a brain. I'm saying the mom's brain is not directing her development.
No, there's such a mistake.
What's a mistake? What's a
Right.
mistake?
My brain
That
is
brain
not
doesn't
directing
work
my body.
outside of the body.
What do you
I
mean?
have all kinds of integrated systems, limbic systems, blood systems.
Yeah.
No, my brain is not.
No, but if your brain dies, you will cease to exist.
No.
Your brain dead. Oh, your soul may live on, but your body is
I don't
dead.
have a soul, sweetheart.
How do you know that? Oh, that's a separate question.
There's no
Okay.
such thing as a soul.
Interesting.
It's protect. Your whole argument, and because you mentioned soul, now we understand. Your whole argument is based on magical thinking.
Magical thinking.
There's no soul. There's no bigger picture.
So quickly, we went from science to magical thinking. My bad for mentioning the soul. Before she dismissed my view as magic, this was my point. The mother's body parts work together to keep her functioning as a whole, and her brain plays a pivotal role in managing this. When someone is declared brain dead, they may have living parts, but there's no longer a living whole being. The brain is no longer facilitating the coordination of the parts. The person has died. Bottom line, your brain is involved in keeping your parts working together. But a pregnant mom's brain is not keeping the embryo's parts working together. The embryo is already managing that on her own, even before she had a brain. She has parts, and she's directing those parts to work together as a whole. So she's not part of her mom, she's a whole being, an immature one, but a whole being on her own. Now, does she have a soul? I admit that's not a question for science, that's a matter of worldview. But if the soul is indeed false magical thinking, as the marcher declares, then that's bad news not only for the embryos, but also for you, for me, and for the marcher herself. We'd all be destined for the same cold grave and then game over. That's a worldview of despair.
That is part of my body. If I want to remove it, I may remove it. This is part of my body. If I want to remove it, I may remove it.
What DNA does...
You
Okay.
don't get to tell any of these sisters here, any of them,
Or brothers?
any of them, what they can do with their own body.
See, I agree with that. I don't have any dispute with that. My
Yes,
dispute
you
is on
do.
scientific
Yes,
facts.
you do.
No, I don't.
Because-
You can do everyone with your thumb, your finger, your nose, your eye. I don't really care. My issue is someone else's thumb. Her thumb that you're tearing into pieces. That's my concern.
Why can't we agree? Because there are deeper problems than our conclusion on abortion. The women's marcher, who earlier praised science, here shows no curiosity, no willingness to consider competing claims to determine what is true about the embryo. Instead, we see narrow-minded blind faith in the wildly unscientific claim that an embryo is part of her mother. She refuses to consider challenges to her view, and worse, she also tells us we must submit to her view even if we don't agree, saying we cannot live out our pro-life convictions by telling people not to kill their children. This is a dangerous model, saying I'm right, you're wrong, and refusing to consider challenges to your view. And it makes her final challenge to me ring a bit hollow.
You're not offering me anything but servitude to the patriarchy.
No,
So you
I've not
must-
argued for that. I've argued with science.
Must sit quietly.
Do you think science is
here.
patriarchal?
Yes.
You think science is patriarchal? Okay, nice to meet you.
Okay, clearly she doesn't see all science as patriarchal, but it's my style of science she dismisses as the patriarchy. But what was my kind of science? Making objective claims about the real world, that the embryo is a human, that she's not part of her mom but a whole organism, and testing those claims with objective reasoning. That's not patriarchy, that's how science should be done. What's truly terrifying is her style of science, making an unscientific claim that the embryo is part of her mother, and then telling those who have objective reasons to object that they must submit and sit quietly. That may not be the patriarchy, but it sure is closed-minded, and a lot of humans, whole human beings, are dying because of it.